Oh, I guess there's no intro video. Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome into the daily MLB pre-lock show. No, you're not watching a hockey show. It is actually a baseball show. You've got two of the three of the Goon Squad from the NHL with you today. Sam, a.k.a. Darth Pasta. Joining me is Scott, a.k.a. Tattoo, straight out of the penalty box. Scott's riding high a little bit after his Oilers Game 1 victory on Wednesday night. How you doing, brother?
I'm good. The nerves are setting in. Just it'd be less pressure on the road, but I feel like we have to win at home. So.
Yep. And if y'all had not watched hockey just in general, but especially playoff hockey, there is nothing like it. No other sport comes close to the excitement, honestly, of playoff hockey. And we continue to dominate in NHL just as in every other sport. I think we had a $7,500 second place winner Game 1 the other night. So once you all get your lines in tonight for MLB, maybe hop over into the chat. And I think Sean, the other coach, did the cheat sheet for today. He was on, if you all watched Geek's Draftapalooza at noon this afternoon. He and Geek together were drafting today. So you're getting a lot of hockey, guys.
Yeah.
We do it all. All the coaches here do it all.
That's because hockey guys don't take days off.
That's right. And Tattoo's got his playoff beard in full stream. But today we are talking about MLB, of course. It's the MLB pre-lock show. So thank you guys for joining us. 12-game slate tonight. Tattoo, you like these big slates? You like them smaller? What's your overall thought? You like them smaller?
Yeah, I like them somewhere 4 to 8 or something like that,
Yeah. Do you do anything differently when it comes to larger slates versus the smaller ones? Just kind of sort of as an opening question, as you guys can see the panels tonight.
The closest I would say that I switch is on very small slates where I'll play a hitter versus a pitcher. But, the only other thing is maybe I would go down to only a 4-man stack, maybe. But, still with small, I think 5 is the way to go.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we're going to run. Yep. All right, so we're going to run through. You guys can see on. What is going on here? Oh, that's why I've got the YouTube one open at the same time. I'm hearing you twice. All right, so we see up on the screen. There are the game tiles tonight. A couple of interesting games just that are popping out. You look at the game totals. You can see the Mets and the Rockies, the Mets and Coors. So I'm sure that they're going to be chalky. A couple of other interesting. You got the Orioles there in the hitter's paradise that the ballpark in Sacramento is turning into. And then a couple of other games that are a little bit lower. We'll talk about why that is here in a second. The big thing is the weather. There are a few games that have some weather issues tonight. Pittsburgh hosting Philly. The Yankees and Red Sox have a little bit of rain. I think Texas and Washington, LA, St. Louis. But the big one is Arizona in Cincinnati. And that's the only one that as of now doesn't look terribly good. You all know to keep an eye on the weather channel. Joey's posted about 45 minutes ago. Good chance of a delay and could postpone. All of the other ones that we mentioned just kind of have a low risk of delay, and most of them, it looks like the storms will kind of be out before the games start. So generally speaking, pitching, I think, is safe for most of those except for the Cincinnati game. And honestly, with a large slate like this, if you just wanted to uncheck that game, I know it's fantasy goodness and everything. But if you're the kind of person that just doesn't want to mess with the weather at all, there are 11 other games that you can have good pieces from. But that's really the only one that looks a little bit sketchy at the moment. Okay. All right, let's have a look at Tattoo. You did the cheat sheet for FanDuel today.
Yeah.
Right. And I know Raz, as always, is doing the DraftKings. So let's talk pitchers a little bit. Let's look at, and you guys have seen this before, this is our Carnage report. This kind of combines all of, do I need to make that bigger? All of the nice little data. You can see the little color code, purple and blue are good, pink and red are bad. So Tattoo, where are you starting tonight with your pitching? Who do you like? Who's kind of the cash? Who's the kind of the nice pivot? And then maybe who's the sneaky under the radar that you like?
I like it's hard. Tariq Skubal,
Mm-hmm.
but he's also kind of scary tonight,
Mm-hmm.
which because they're playing the Cubs, if I am remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a bit worrisome. I was trying to get back to my pitching tab and it appeared on me.
The price is really sort of prohibitive too on him a little bit, right?
Yeah.
He's 11K on FanDuel. He's 11.5 on DraftKings. Now he's definitely got the upside, and the Cubs can strike out. But that Cub offense is just very good too.
Yeah, I kind of like is a sneakier like Hayden Birdsong.
Okay.
Him. I mean, I don't know how sneaky Spencer Schwallenbach is, but but just kind of that San Francisco game. I think runs would be very limited. They're safer. Then obviously Seth Lugo is in a good spot.
Mm-hmm. Does he concern you at all? Just, I think he just I think he's making his second start from coming off the IL. But the matchup is just,
the matchup is so
it's
good.
kind of too good a little bit, Mm-hmm. But does him ramping things up scare you at all a little bit or not?
Not really. Not with the matchup.
Okay.
And Sonny Gray's got a really tough matchup, but he's looked great.
Okay. Yeah. Now, obviously, again, Skubal, and you can see there on the Carnage report, he kind of ticks all of the boxes that you want from your high upside pitcher. Looking right below that, you see Will Warren. He's really, really volatile, but he gets just such a great strikeout upside matchup against the Red Sox, who they strike out a ton, second, third in the league kind of thing. So he's an option too. You get Senga in Coors, but it's against the Rockies. So I'm sure he'll be popular. Let's see. Who else are we looking at? Who else do you have on your sheet? Tattoo. You mentioned Birdsong. A nice little spot to kind of pay down. Games in San Francisco at night tend to be, the ballpark helps out the pitcher a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's not like Atlanta's been lighting the world on fire at all this season.
Yeah, their defense, offense is so inconsistent.
Yep. And, he's 8,000 on FanDuel. I'm not sure what he is on DraftKings, but he's probably a nice little pay down thing.
If you get crazy, you could take, Ryan Rollison from the Rockies.
Mm-hmm. I think he's just opening though, isn't he?
Just going to open.
I think that's what I saw. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's weird because I was looking at. That's what I was thinking, but his K probability for him to. Oh, never mind. I hit the wrong tab. I'll shut up. Wait. They have him at 67%, minus 204 to get 8+ strikeouts. And I'm like, well, how can you do that if he's just going to pitch
right?
A couple innings,
right? And then there's, to me, there's Ben Brown too on the other side of the Cubs and Tigers game. He's looked really, really good, and he's cheap too. He's, I think, 7K on DraftKings. I think he's 8,300 on FanDuel. So that's another nice little option there for you. But if you're doing cash, who's your cash pitcher tonight or pitchers?
I'm trying to think of what I did. I think Schwellenbach would probably be one.
Okay.
And then I might go Birdsong, or probably Birdsong, or just pay up and take Scooble.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the ownership is kind of driving that a little bit. I mean, he's approaching 40% on DraftKings. So, I think you almost have to lock that.
Yeah, I mean, his K side is, K upside is so good.
Yep.
I'm not sure where the Cubs rank at. I don't have that tab up right now.
Yep. Yep. But then a second pitcher could be Schwellenbach if you want to pay down a little bit. Again, Senga in Colorado saves you a little bit.
I don't mind Senga, but it's hard to pay that much for somebody at Coors.
Yeah. First game though, yeah.
Yeah.
But again, just from the ownership perspective. Anybody else standing out to you pitching wise tonight?
Not particularly.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody. I mean, Dean Kramer.
That's one that I kind of had on my list a little bit. What makes you like him?
He's just been pitching well lately, limiting damage, and he's normally fairly cheap.
Yep. And go ahead.
I was just going to say, A's been struggling some, after that hot start.
Yep. And they went off yesterday, which, I think history kind of shows that it's always a nice spot to kind of attack the pitcher the next day after a big explosion like that, because the likelihood of it happening again, right?
Very low.
Yep. Cool. All right. Let's talk about some hitters, some stacks and everything. Let me share. And you guys have seen this. This is our leverage stacks. Do I need to blow this up a little bit? Let's look at DraftKings for that. Sorry, too many tabs open. All right, so again, this kind of breaks things down, and we can sort this however we want. We've got average salary per player, average projected points. This is where I like to start, is by sorting by total ownership, and I like to look for break points. When there's a big gap between one group and the next, or one tier and the next, or one team and the next, and you can see that right there. Tattoo. Look at the Mets. Again, the Mets are in Coors. Coors are awful. The Rockies are awful. But look at that jump in ownership. 90%, and then jumping all the way down to the Orioles. Now, again, on a large slate in your MME, you could easily make the argument for just fading the Mets, unchecking the Mets completely, just from an ownership spot, or thinking about just only putting them on your small stack side. If there's that big of a run toward the Mets, and we think of the hitters as being more volatile or less predictive, I guess, than the pitchers. All of these other teams have many of the teams probably have as good a likelihood as not to go off. So give yourself some leverage there, especially when kind of the ownership is indicating that a little bit. Now, are they in a good spot? Absolutely. Could they go off and blow up for 13 runs? Possibly, yeah. But if you're along with the field, you're not jumping over them, if that makes sense. And if you look over here at the leverage rank tab, look how far down they are. They're halfway. They're 11th. So you're not getting a ton of leverage with them anyway. So again, that's just kind of something you kind of want to weigh in when you're thinking about how you're going to construct your stacks and your percentages and things like that. So who are your favorite stacks tonight? Who are the teams that you like a lot? And primarily, you'll kind of be overweight on.
I have obviously the Mets.
Mm-hmm.
I like the Yankees.
So you're gonna eat the chalk then a little bit.
It depends. In terms of my sheets, yeah, I'm going to suggest them because they're in such a great spot. I liked Arizona, but we don't know about that now.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then it would probably go down to the Yankees. Baltimore would be my next two. Maybe Kansas City is probably about my top. But, those offenses are so hard to trust, like Kansas City and Baltimore.
Mm-hmm. Interesting that the Yankees are the top stack on the leverage tool. And again, with that ownership, it's almost a third, somewhere between a third and a half of what the Mets ownership is. And again, they're in a very desirable spot, right? They're facing Boston, arch rivals and everything. So I mean, that's a lovely spot to get over.
2-1 or 11-9.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And again, like think about who they're facing too. Walker Buehler, who hasn't been anything this year, right? Walker Buehler is very attackable tonight, so that's definitely a spot. You got a team or two that might go under the radar. I mean, again, 12 game slate, maybe 11, but ownership's going to be really spread out. But who's kind of a team that might be sneaky for you?
I haven't looked at that. Like the Athletics.
Okay.
I don't know how sneaky,
Right.
It really
yeah,
is.
Sneaky is maybe not the right word for a 12 gamer like this.
But yeah, Angels.
Okay.
I went I was trying my sheet. I was pretty sure I listed the Angels. Yeah. I had Arizona, Cincinnati, but they'll have to probably come out. And I had the Dodgers and Angels were my teams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like the Angels too as kind of sneaky. Bryce Miller's been not that good recently. He's only had a couple of good starts this year. One of them was actually against the Angels. I think maybe his best start, or if it wasn't his best, it was as close.
Yeah.
But he just hasn't looked good recently either. And with Trout back, that ups their upside a lot.
Yeah, that helps. Taylor Ward, who's already having a great year. Taylor Ward, who is 4 for 10 off Miller with a home run and 2 extra base hits.
Okay. So because I know that you like to play just a few lineups and kind of hand build and
playing small, like 5 max and under.
I know you like to do that. Where would you start tonight? If you're just doing one lineup, or 3 lineups, where would you start? How would you build it from scratch?
I'm gonna I'll tell you how I do it, even though I do hand build scratch. I do use the DS and put in my 2 or 3 pitchers that I'm going to use, 5-man stack, the 1 or 2 teams that I'm going to use on that side, and I'll let it spit out something, and then I'll go through and hand adjust. Because I like to build it while I'm looking at the DS information and just go from there. But I mean, it's hard not. I wouldn't use the Mets in all 3. Okay. What I may do is use the Mets in a 3 max, use them once, and then maybe take the Yankees in the other 2, and then maybe 2-man the Mets in that one or something.
Okay.
But I want to definitely get some Yankees in there.
Well, let's build. Let's play around a little bit because we got a little bit of time. So here is the DS back on DraftKings, right? Because that's where you play most of your stuff. All right. So how many lineups do you want to build?
Maybe 5.
You do 5? Okay. All right. When you're doing this and kind of just playing around and hand building, right? Do you like just the one unique player? Do you do 3? What do you like?
I still do 3.
You still do 3? I do too. Okay.
And I throw a bunch of randomization on pitching.
Okay.
Because otherwise, unless you're taking everything, it's going to try to jam the good 2 guys together every time. And then there's guys that, I only want 20%. That's going to throw them together in the last lineup.
Right.
So I try to throw that in there and mix it up since it's all pitchers I'm wanting anyway.
Okay. So 20% higher?
I'm in love with Michael Jordan, so I just always use 23.
All right. That's your little secret number. I think Raz has a secret number like that too, or a number like that. Do you do any random on hitters?
No.
Okay. All right. So stacking. All right. So if you're hand building, do you do the 5-2 or do you like to get a little bit different?
I still just put 5-2,
100%
in there.
Okay. All right. So now we're going to come down here. We're going to uncheck. And you said you were on
like Mets and the Yankees, and you could throw in Baltimore. Would probably just because they're El Choco.
Baltimore. Okay.
I'll leave the other side alone.
You leave the other side alone?
Yeah, and just put 40% max.
40%. So that's going to give you at most 2.
2. They'll be in 2 stacks.
Okay. Do you want to do anything in here? Do you want at least 1 stack from each?
No. I might put like 67% just so they don't get all 3.
Okay. All right. And then coming down here. So if you're going for the small, right? We're talking the smaller kind of contest, right? We don't need to get terribly weird or different. Yeah. Okay. So you would uncheck
all the pitchers. Yeah, and then just add back.
Okay. Who do you want to add back?
Like add back what? We're going to add back Scooble and Spencer 2.0. I don't mind Sonny Gray, but I don't know if we need to get that crazy.
Probably not.
Maybe Singa, Birdsong, and Lugo.
Okay. All right. Do you do anything over here, or just run it and just see what happens?
I might put like 60 or 80% max, so I don't get pitchers and everything.
Okay.
And then unless there's a pitcher that I'm locking in, but then I'll just lock and put 60% on everybody else.
Okay. All right, and that looks good. So let's just give it a run and see what it spits out.
And I like leaving the other side alone because I want to see what the DS is all over.
Right. All right. All right, so it likes Senga, which I think to me makes sense because he's kind of priced kind of right in the middle.
Yeah.
So you're getting the most of him. Scroll down, 40% of the other one, so that's a nice little blend. And then, we didn't get the other one. Who was the other one we checked in?
Spencer 2.0.
Okay. I wonder if it's a price, since they're
it could
relatively close-ish, but it's projecting Scooble for higher. All right. And then let's look at our stacks here.
And that might be something where when I get to that lineup, if I want a little salary, I might jump down from Scooble to Spencer.
Right. Okay. All right. So it only gave you Baltimore and the Yankees. Now, did you want to come back? Would you come back up here and force the Mets into at least 1?
Probably so.
Okay.
I'd be lying if I didn't say that.
All right, and then the other ones over here, we're getting some of the other teams. We got a little White Sox action, right? Do we want to take out the Reds?
We might as well if we're
okay. Yeah, let's just uncheck that game. right? Because again, if you're playing kind of the smaller contests or the single entry,
I don't need all
that's
that
not something
risk.
that's not something you want, right? Okay, all right, and then all right, so let's try this again and just see what happens. And again, you can do this
Look, Scooble now
for anything, yeah. All right, so again, I think it's partially the randomization and everything. That now all of a sudden we're getting a ton of Scooble, which is okay, right? I don't necessarily hate that.
And like I said, I'm gonna hand jive, so.
Right. But again, this is just a good exercise to familiarize yourself with what the DS is kind of saying. Hey, this is what it's.
And then you know what other guys are playing in those contests, because those contests are so chalk and optimal lineups. That's just
right.
People will go in there.
Yeah. So maybe you don't want 80% of Scooble. Maybe you don't want Scooble in 4 out of your 5. Then you take one, right? And then maybe you go down here to Schwellenbach, right? Just to get yourself a little bit different. And now you've got all of this extra salary. You've got $1,500 extra. Now, if you're playing around with this, we got a nice little Oriole stack. You got a 1, 2, 5, 9. Or
I would probably
whatever Laureano. Blah, blah.
Because I don't.
You probably what?
I would probably change my 2-man stack because I don't want the 5-9 Red Sox,
right,
as my 2-man stack.
Yeah.
And
well,
now
let's play around with that.
Salary to play with,
Yeah, we can hand build a little bit. So if we find some Red Sox down here,
or
like a break,
might be to go back up and get. What were the Yankees that were available?
There's Bellinger, and Judge was your one-off.
Yeah, I mean,
so if you did that, you still got
Toro's not bad. I don't mind leaving the 5.
No, Toro's got some pop. Yeah. Every once in a while, he'll go off, right? So that's a super easy way just to kind of hand build it a little bit with the aid of the DS, and that's something I like to do when I do my single entries, right? I'll kind of play around like this.
Like, I really wanted to get Pena in a lineup, so so then you can start manipulating it, but it gives you an idea of what is getting spit out.
Correct. Yeah, and again, it's just it sometimes it puts you on to things or plays or combinations that you wouldn't have normally thought of. Yeah. Right? We were going through this, and then all of a sudden, oh, look at the Yankees. Oh, okay, now I can fit Bellinger, right?
Yeah.
Little 2-3 mini stack. You have a nice little, if assuming Laureano's in, but you have a nice little 5-man Baltimore stack in a great hitter's park. They're all spread out. You have a nice little wraparound here with Mateo going back up to Holiday and Rutschman.
I like Mateo a lot tonight too.
Yep. And then your one-off, you always want to have a one-off that's got home run upside, and Toro's got some pop. I don't know that I necessarily love him against Warren, but Will Warren is volatile. So I mean, if you wanted to change him up, I don't know, maybe I don't know if there's anything in the $3,200 range that works, but maybe you just leave him then.
Right, honestly, Rowdy Talise is 6 for 7 with a home run versus Hendricks. So
there you go. And we all know that Kyle Hendricks is just not the Kyle Hendricks from 5 years ago when he was with the Cubs.
And then maybe that allows you to play around with Ramon Laureano if we're not sure,
Yep. Same salary and everything. But again,
same thing.
That's why we like to put those BVP pieces of information on our sheets. 6 for 7. I mean, that's telling. It's a small sample size, but it's telling that he's just, for whatever reason, some hitters just see some pitchers a whole lot better than others.
If he plays, I love Ramon Laureano kind of going back against Oakland.
Yep.
And he's had some pop this year. So
yep. So again, I love that lineup. Great lineup, right? It's using the tools we've got, using the sheets, the info that we're putting on there, and kind of just seeing what we can kind of cobble together. Come down here, another little Oriole 5-man stack.
Just like Ivan was saying, if you just run the DS, you're probably going to have the same lineup as somebody else.
Right.
I mean, in a bigger,
Right. Right.
Because those guys are click, download,
Yep. but 2 or 3 little things. We saw what the DS is giving
Yeah.
us. We made a change here to save money and half the ownership from Scooble. We got in a second Yankee, a little back-to-back in the top of the order, and then a solid one-off with upside who's got a good track record against the pitcher he's facing, who doesn't happen to be very good.
When your contest start tonight, look through, and I guarantee you find that 2-man Boston stack.
Oh, I'm sure you will. Absolutely. Yep. Now, if you were using this and running all this, would you like the 60% over here, or would you kind of maybe run it again and cap them at 40 so you're not getting 3 5-man stacks?
No, I'd probably stay with 60.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Myself.
And then again, just kind of scrolling down here. Here's your 5-man Met stack. 1, 2, 4. Doesn't have Soto in there, which is interesting. And then that's a little random 2-8, right? So again, you maybe want to zhuzh this around a little bit because you got a little 2-8 here and then a 9 hitter as your one-off, which kind of isn't ideal or anything. But no, this is kind of a sexy lineup right here. It's kind of a sexy lineup. Yeah. All right. Ivan says, what's Ivan saying? I think this is really important. A lot of people just run the DS and plug and play. Tinkering with the DS lineups is a great idea. That's how I make my SE. Yeah, use the tool. The DS says this is kind of what we think is going to be the play, right? But like Ivan said, this is what everybody's going to be using. So how can I leverage what the DS is telling me and put my own spin on it to get different, right? Because again, Scooble was the great example, right? He's 40% owned, but what if the Cubs put up 7 runs against him in 5 innings? It's definitely possible. Well, you've got leverage now going with Schwellenbach at half the ownership in a much better game environment.
Because last time I checked, I don't think Scooble is undefeated with a 0.00 ERA.
Yep. Now, could Scooble shut the Cubs down and strike out 11? Absolutely. Yeah. Right. But again, we're playing the leverage game. We're going off of the assumption that this is what the field is doing. How do I get different without getting stupid? Right? Do I need to go down to a $6,000 pitcher? No, because Schwellenbach is in just as good of a spot. All right.
And your pitchers are more likely to succeed than your hitters.
Correct. Yep. All right. Good evening. Was just wondering, do you ever like or add percentage on hitters individually? I know we do that a lot. I think during when we're running the DS for NFL, we put likes and loves and adores. Tetu, when you MME, do you ever do that, or even when you're doing 20 max or something like that?
Yeah, if I really want to force a guy in, but a lot of times I'll just change their projection.
Mm-hmm.
And say I was like, man, I got to get Talise in some lineups.
Right.
So I might either throw a door on him or just raise his projection.
Yeah, I'll do that as well. I won't usually ever put a min on a guy other than the pitchers, just because I find, and I think most of us do too, I think putting the min on here kind of puts them more often than not into the first chunk of your lineups, and then we don't see him after that first 20% or whatever that you put the minimum on him. You don't see him in the other 130 lineups. So it's more organic if you change the projection, or if you
it's easier
like Door, which does the same thing.
Projection and put a max on him.
Right. Exactly. So that would be and I'll put a love on my cores. I'll put a like on some of the 3 stars that I have. I've also started, at least when I play around with the coins, I've started to play around with the stack tool. I don't know if we've talked a whole lot about that, but if you're looking over here, this little button right here, if you click on the little, can you see that? Or is it too big? It's too small. If you click on this button next to the hitter, that only puts that hitter in stacks that show up in your lines. So I've started to kind of play around with, again, we talk about the hitters that you want as the one-offs as being the ones that have the upside, the home run upside, the big upside. So what I've started to kind of do and play around with is kind of start to sort by order. And unless it's somebody random, I've just started to click and select, and only put the turds in your stacks, unless it's some good hitter hitting eighth. Like, for example, Nico Horner sometimes hits eighth or seventh for the Cubs. I would leave him unteam stacked, right? Things like that. Now, again, I'm just kind of playing around with that in the coins. But that's another way that you can kind of make the likelihood of those hitters that do have the big upside that you want as the one-offs going into that spot, if that makes sense. Okay. Follow-up example, Rutschman tonight is 4 out of 10 with 2 dongs against Sears. Would you just hope the DS gives you a good amount, or change the projection? Change the projection, right? If you're really high on that and you see that he's got a good track record against Sears, it's in a good hitting environment. But if I'm only getting 3%, I'm going to up his projection.
Yeah, I mean that make your stand.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and again, on such a large slate like this, I mean, if we're looking at his, I don't know, where is Rutschman? Well, he's owned, right? Yeah. So I mean, if the DS is only giving you 7%, right? But you like him, change his projection, make it 9, make it 10, or slap a like and a love, so that you get closer to, or even over, what the field is. Mm-hmm. Good questions. All right. Any final thoughts? Any specific hitters you like? Who are your cores tonight, by the way? I haven't even looked.
I think I put some Mets on there probably.
Yeah, Alonso is just so hot right now. Goodness gracious. He has something like a 450 ISO this last week.
I like Gunnar Henderson. He's got a great history versus Sears.
Okay.
As far as just like that, BVP, Pena has got a great. He is 6 for 5 with 2 extra base hits.
Okay.
Like he said, Rutschman's got a good track record. Mookie Betts is 4 for 8 with 2 extra base hits.
Mm-hmm. So Muncy is in the middle of one of his characteristic hot streaks, so I think you could kind of ride that a little bit.
Yeah.
Because again, in a month he'll go cold and he'll go 2 for 30, like he usually does.
Salvy's got 3 for 5.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of these are small, but it's
right.
It's a trend, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Any final thoughts before we get out, so we can get your lineups in?
Gunner is my dong call.
Gunner is your dong call of the day. I haven't settled on mine yet, but in that park, definitely in play. I'm looking at the dong calls of the day. Scott's got Soto, and Deli's got Alonso, both viable in Coors, both big home run bats.
If you're a VIP and you got access to that, I don't know if it's happened yet, but there's nothing wrong with throwing $1 on all of our picks as a parlay.
No, not at all. Not at all.
We've done it. We did it in hockey a lot.
We did. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we play each other's, and we'd probably, if we were played every single slate, we'd probably come out ahead a little bit at the end of the season. All right. Well, thank you all, as always, for joining us. It's Friday, so thank you for spending a little bit of time with us. We got about an hour, a little under an hour, to get your lineups in. We are in chat all night. And once you get, like I said at the beginning, once you get your lineups in, come join us in NHL. It's game 2 tonight.
Everybody
Tattoo is going to be sweating again. They pulled it out though.
Yeah, I have Sean and which is nuts. I always want to say Black Widow, but that's somebody else. But
there you go, Big Ben.
There you go.
Go Oilers, go! I think most people not in Florida are cheering for the Oilers.
If you're a hockey fan, if you're really just a hockey fan, I think you would want to see McDavid get a cup.
Yeah, you know? I agree.
And Corey Perry. I mean, damn, that man needs a cup.
Is this his 5th or 6th straight?
5th out of the last 6 years, but it's 6th.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yep. So, all right. Anything else before we sign off?
No, I think I'm going to order me a pizza and get ready.
There you go. All right, guys. Well, thank you all for joining us. Hit us up in Discord if you have any other thoughts before the slate locks. Kaboom, bring it back to Canada. It's been since '96 for us. There you go. I think they do it. All right. So if there's nothing else, have a wonderful Friday night. Have a wonderful weekend. Go Oilers tonight. And we will see you on Monday for the next pre-lock show.
Yeah, probably you and Chop.
I think it's probably me and Chop.
Yeah.
All right. Helmets up. Take care.
Thanks, guys.